Good people. Good people. We alive. Good
Okay.
people.
All right. What's happening? What's happening? Welcome to Watch the Game Sports. I'm your man, L.A. Cheatham, finishing up a little bit of production. I'm not quite a journalist. Damn near not an anchor man. I'm just a fan. So allow me to make a few mistakes. Welcome to Watch the Game Sports. The tip off. Are you ready for tip off? March Madness kicks off in less than 1 day. And we have a little bit of outlook on the tournament, celebrating March Madness, celebrating the life of a legend, a hometown legend, Junior Bridgman, East Chicago, Indiana. Stand up. Also, I want to shed some light on the boys' progress. We're going to celebrate Junior Bridgman and we're going to celebrate the East Chicago Central Cardinals. They moved on in the Indiana High School basketball tournament. We won a regional. We'll talk about that. And send a special shout out to some of the other Lake County, Indiana high school boys basketball teams that are moving on to the semi-state in the state of Indiana with boys basketball state tournament. There will be the Crown Point Bulldogs in Gary 21st Century. So congratulations to those two schools as well. Moving on to the semifinal round in the Indiana boys basketball tournament. Going to semi-state on Saturday. So, first and foremost, I just want to start the show off tonight by paying a tribute to Mr. Junior Bridgman. Uh, he inspired many in the city of East Chicago, Indiana. Um, I never got a chance to meet Junior, but I always heard a lot about him, and I can say um, in my coaching journey, the influence of him and many other coaches and players that came from East Chicago, Indiana, provides me with the passion to do what I do, and I coach from there. When I coach my boys and work with the kids in East Chicago, I coach from a passion of a legacy that was provided before us that we're tremendously proud of, and I think I speak for many when I say that we were tremendously proud of Junior. He influenced and inspired many. If he spent time in a city from East Chicago, then he went to Louisville, and then he finished up. He played basketball for the Milwaukee Bucks. But my point is, he made an impact in every last one of those places, and this still reigns today. And many people, big and small, uh, uh, paid a tribute to him in those places. And the one that stood out to me the most, Penn, was when Shaquille O'Neal took to the TNT airwaves and gave his own tribute to him, explaining how he took his business model from Mr. Junior Bridgman, and that's the business model and influence that Shaquille O'Neal has today. Um, so tonight, I just wanted to come on today and speak him into celebration. He most definitely lived a wonderful life. In from all of those people that had a chance to meet him and talk to him and do business with him, they all had said the same thing. He was a humble man for all his fortune. He was very humble. Well, went on played high school basketball in the city of East Chicago. Played for East Chicago Washington's 1971 undefeated Indiana High School State Basketball Boys State Basketball Champion. They went 29-0. Many people consider that team to be one of the best teams to ever come out of the state of Indiana. That roster consisted of a Major League Baseball pitcher. That roster had Tim Stoddard on it. Tim Stoddard went on to University of North Carolina State, and he went and played with David Thompson in the 1974, I believe, national championship game, and they won the championship in 1974. That was Tim Stoddard, and I think he went on to play Major League Baseball for some years. I think he even played with the Cubs, Chicago Cubs. Team also had on that East Chicago Washington team, also had a teammate that Junior had to suit up against in the 1974 Final Four. Coach Pete Turkovich. Now that we're on our journey trying to achieve a state championship in East Chicago, it should be mentioned that Coach Turkovich took us to our last and only state championship game and state championship title in 07. And but Junior played against him in the semifinals of the 1975 Final Four. Pete Turkovich was on the UCLA team, played for legendary coach John Wooden. But Junior played for Louisville, wore number 10 for Louisville. I remember all his numbers from high school. He wore 34 at the university, at East Chicago Washington High School. And then he wore number 10 at Louisville. And then he was also involved in one of the most legendary trades in NBA history, I believe. But his name was kind of one of the big name. The big name in that trade was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
And Bridgman was in that trade. That's how he ended up playing with the Milwaukee Bucks. He had his number retired with the Bucks. And I had an opportunity years ago to take one of my AAU teams to the Bradley Center. It's still the Bradley, it's not the Bradley Center anymore, is it?
Bradley Center gone. It's Pfizer Forum.
Yeah. Okay. I took the kids out. We went to the Bradley Center at that time years ago, and Junior Bridgman's number 2 hung in the rafters. I took out the time to make sure. Most of these kids were from East Chicago. I took out the time to make sure that they knew that we had a brother's number hanging in the rafters. Junior Bridgman, number 2. It stated that his whole NBA career, he made $3 million. I mean, just go figure what the NBA salaries are today. But during his off seasons, it was stated that he would go and work in his Wendy's. He had invested in the Wendy's franchise, and he was actually go in the off season and work his restaurants and fry the burgers and flip the burgers just so he'd learn the business model and, to understand the employee portion of it. And he went on from Wendy's to many other business ventures. I believe that I think there's levels. You can be a businessman, but he was an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. We hear so much about what Magic has accomplished in Magic with that big old smile and that big personality. You couldn't miss him.
Right.
But Junior was from what many people say, he was the exact opposite. You know what I'm saying? A humble guy and, gentle guy and helped out many. But he went on to become an entrepreneur, big entrepreneur and businessman. And in his passing. We celebrate him, and the many that he inspired and continue to inspire. And we want to get it out, especially to the young people of East Chicago, Indiana. If you are blessed to hear my voice tonight, um, just know that anything is possible. You can do it. You can live your dreams. You can achieve. Anything is possible. He most definitely showed that as an example of his life. So, like I said, that's my tribute. Uh, we got a platform, so I might as well do it. Hey, that's my tribute to Junior Bridgman. And I probably left something out, you know what I'm saying? But if I did, I think you guys know where I'm coming from and you know where I'm going with this. Junior Bridgman, honor and celebrate his life.
Yeah, and just to jump in on that, Junior Bridgman I never really, followed him and knew anything about him other than what my dad told me. He was, good basketball player from the area and then played for the Bucks. But those conversations were all more so about the business side of Junior Bridgman. Like, you should grow up to aspire to be like Junior Bridgman. He owned Wendy's and, he franchised some Wendy's and he parlayed that into his next business venture. So that was always my talking point, or what I would hear about Junior Bridgman is just his business acumen and his business ventures that he was in. So never looked him up, his any of his highlights or anything like that, other than hearing y'all talk about him. But it's just more so, 12, trying to set that example. It's life outside of basketball. You can use basketball to get, other things other than just, putting that ball in the hoop and then it's over with. So that was my Junior Bridgman experience that I had. So, and it's he just we was watching the games last weekend. He's like, man, did you see Junior Bridgman die? And I could tell when he was telling me about it, it kind of stung him a little bit because that's somebody he had always mentioned and spoke highly of. So Junior Bridgman, if we had some around, it'd be going down for you.
For sure. And it's when you say that and you talk about your dad and the influence, I just speak about your dad for a minute and just in reference to Junior, like the way your dad carries himself, stand up business guy, businessman, back in the day, that was the image, you know what I'm saying? And it always gave us something to look up to and to aspire to be. And I think Junior Bridgman was more of the same. And with your dad being younger than him, I believe that's one of the biggest impacts he had on him, because we all respect the game of basketball.
Yeah.
Because your dad, I love talking to him about Jim Bradley, one of the greats from East Chicago Roosevelt. But I can see the influence and impact that he had on him as a professional, because your dad, he always, even to this day, he carries himself like $1 million, man. I'm being totally honest with you. Probably could have been a politician, and but that's just the image, man. And it's to, when you're dealing with young people, young men, that's what you want them to aspire to be, and have an understanding that in this life, all you really have is your name. It's all you have. You put a lot of things in behind it. You know what I'm saying? But you can make good on your name. You know what I mean? That's all you really have. When people speak your name, there's an image, or there's a story that will be told. And we talk about Junior Bridgman, we've heard a lot of great stories from the basketball court. Because as a basketball player in high school, he was described as a rebound guy, a rebound, go hit the boards, finish plays, almost like a garbage man. But he was about 6'5", But can you imagine how he had to work on his skill set because he went from a forward in high school to probably a small forward or a guard in college. Had the opportunity to get drafted into the NBA, and he had a skill set. He had a real skill set. He could shoot it. He could put it on the floor. He was a really a big wing. He was what you consider a big guard. So not only did he work on he worked on his game to transform into a pro, and then he worked on this. He worked with his money to transform into an entrepreneur, which transformed into a good life. So great man through and through. As far as yeah, JB. Um, in celebration of the East Chicago boys basketball team, all I want to say is this: the man, hey, we won that game 78-55. And with my boys, the coaches, I didn't get a team picture to you, so I apologize to the boys and the rest of the fans. But those are the coaches. Myself with the net hanging around my neck.
Why you got that though?
Well, it was the net was on the trophy, and Coach Allah, he's the one holding the trophy. For some reason, he said, "Here, man, hang." He said, "Here, take the net." So I just put it around my neck and took the picture. But if you look at those ties, the gentleman standing next to me is Coach Lou Williams. Lou played for me in middle school.
Really?
Yeah, he played for me in 7th, 8th grade. And that's Lou Williams. And next to Lou is Coach Jeremiah Ochoa. He also played with me in middle school. Okay? So you see this thing is full circle.
Yeah.
Louis and Coach Allah, Maru, Coach Maru is the one with the trophy. He I think they might be the same age, man. I think they may be the same age. Pull that picture back up. I gotta get through it. But Coach Maru and Louis, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm gonna take a year. I'm not gonna give a year. So I'm gonna say they're about 23 apiece.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take a year. I'm not gonna give a year. So I don't want to project them to be older than they are. Okay. So I'm thinking they're about the same age. Now the man next to Coach Maru is who we consider the Godfather. He's been coaching basketball since he started coaching in the city in 1976. That's Coach Edmonds. They were calling me the Godfather, and I told them, man, no, that's I'm the ambassador. This is the Godfather right here, because he cut me in high school. He cut me, all right, but he coached for years from 1976. He coached the boys and the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's probably not a lot of coaches in the city can say that. If I think about it, there's probably not a lot of coaches that can say that in the city of East Chicago, that they coach the boys and the girls. And then next to Coach Edmonds is Coach Jamal Garrett, a guy that over the years I've come to build a really decent, a nice relationship with him. I work with him time to time. One of my biggest experiences with him was I seen him play as a high school player. He had a lot of tournament success in high school, and so did Coach Lou Williams. But he had some tournament success in high school. And when I was coaching at the middle school level, I was coaching his son, and his son was in the developmental stage. And you know how you get the concerned parents, and they they're concerned about their kid playing. But I knew Jamal. I knew he had played. So anytime a parent played, and I know it, I kind of listen to him because I'm only human, man. I'm only human. Let me see let me know what you see.
Right.
But we had conversations, so I just told him, man, just jump on, man. Come on, man. Just come on, man. Help me out. So he started to help me out, and the guys got better. We put the team together, and then we handed him to Coach Edmonds. We had him for about a summer or so, but when school started, they went to play for Coach Edmonds, and Coach took that group of kids and taught them the fundamentals of the game as if they never knew the game. And for any coaches that aspire to be any young men or coaches, I'm gonna give you a tip. Don't assume that your kids know anything. Teach them everything you want them to know, because that's what Coach Edmonds did. It's obvious that you can see talent, but you can never assume that talent knows what to do.
Right.
So you must take them and develop them with all the knowledge that you have. Also, do not be afraid to ask for help, and do not be afraid to tell other coaches what you do not know. Surround yourself with good coaches that know the game and share the game so that your kids can develop and be fundamentally sound and well-rounded young men. So I want to send a special shout out to my coaches. Um, Tonight is a full circle broadcast. Um, those ties that they have around their neck, those were given to the boys. Those ties were given to the boys in tribute to Junior Bridgman.
Oh,
I
okay.
think I don't know if they came from our school board, but those ties were handed out to each one of the boys and a few coaches after we won that regional championship. We won that game 78-55. So we scored a lot of points, but I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna bring a light on one kid in particular. We had a kid hit a 3-pointer at the end of the game named Andres Lopez. We called him Hercules, and he hit a big three, man. He a real character kid, really good kid. Don't see a lot of playing time all the time, but he always at practice, always a good teammate, and he hit a big shot. And at the end of that game, and the crowd, I mean, they just went crazy, man, because everybody got a piece of Andreas. So we marching on Saturday. We play Delta. We just trying to keep those guys focused and ready to go. And you know, hey, let's keep it going, guys. But we have a tournament to talk about, and I'll look on the tournament. The college NCAA tournament kicks off with the playing games on Tuesday night. Um, One game in particular, North Carolina plays San Diego State.
Yep, you got it. You got it.
Okay, we were talking earlier about that whole thing is whether or not a lot of people were critical, or whether or not uh, North Carolina deserved to be in. And I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, North Carolina is one of the teams I did not see much of this year because they pretty much kind of had a down year. They wasn't really talked about that much. Their marquee game that they have is always, Duke Carolina, which is, must see TV. And the first one they got blew out. It was not even it wasn't even competitive. It wasn't worth my time sitting there watching it. So, I just had to go away from that. But I know I heard the rumblings about they was in the bubble. I mean, they shouldn't have been in the field. I started to see their name, start to creep up in everybody's bracketology towards the end, first four in, last four out, how that or last four in, first four out. And I honestly don't think they should have been in the field, but they're in. They got to play what is it called? The round of 68 game, the first six. What's the name? They got a name for it
The
tomorrow
first
night.
four.
The first four,
The
yeah.
first four. Mm-hmm.
So they got to do that. So they have to play an extra game, which I think is warranted. But I mean, if they go out there and lay an egg tomorrow, then we ain't got nothing else to talk about. Kind of like with Florida State a few years ago when they didn't get put in the college football playoff. And what happened? They went out there and got waxed in the bowl game. Like, we ain't got nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Interesting thing you say that, because they got they ended up having an injury as well too, didn't he? Florida State at that time.
The quarterback, yeah. Matter of
Yeah,
fact,
and
first two quarterbacks went down, so they was down to their third string quarterback.
yeah. So the reason why I say that's interesting, because as we come upon this tournament, we have two of the major players uh, in the tournament are battling injury going into the tournament. Talk about, I think, Johni Broome and of Auburn and Cooper Flag were battling some injuries getting ready for this tournament. So I thought it was interesting that you would say that. But my outlook on with Carolina in particular, there's a kid on that team, Jalen Washington. I like the kid. I coached the kid in the 6th or 7th grade in some summer league. And he has a really tremendous skill set, can shoot it, can play around the basket. I think he's about 6'10". Jalen Washington out of Gary, West Side. I don't think they're always getting the most out of his skill set. And I'm really critical of how they play, the style of play. They also have RJ Davis.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
feel like he been there forever.
yeah, I mean, and when you talk about the NCAA tournament and the lack of knowing the guys, he's one of the guys that I know because he's been there for a while.
Yeah,
I think his game translates to the NBA, but who knows how they're going to look at him as far as his age and stuff like that. So we have to see if I believe his game translates to the NBA. But we have to see if he can get a shot at the next level. But my thing with Carolina is there's only one RJ Davis. And they have a tendency, the kids in particular, I don't know, I can't remember the younger guards' names. But I think it's about a couple guys, they come out and they try and do some of the same things that RJ Davis do. I'm like, no, there's only one RJ Davis. And they don't play through the big uh, like I think they should. And I don't think this is one of the better defensive teams that North Carolina has put out, because they're usually always a pretty good defensive team and a pretty good rebounding team.
right.
And when you play defense and rebound, you win. When you look at their record, I mean, they've won some games, but it's not what we come accustomed to when you talk about North Carolina basketball. A lot of criticism on how they made the field with their athletic director being on the board. But they get a chance to go out and show that they deserve to be in this tournament by winning one game at a time, and we'll see. They tip off tomorrow night in the first four. Texas as well. I think they're in the first four as well. I forget who they got them playing. Let me bring this
Texas playing
bracket up.
Xavier.
Say that again.
Texas is playing Xavier. I think Texas is playing tomorrow night on Tuesday. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Let me see here.
No, Texas plays on Wednesday night versus
Okay.
Xavier Musketeers.
Okay. So tomorrow, I think it's North Carolina and San Diego State, and the other playing game. Well, that's the second playing game tomorrow night.
Yeah.
The first playing game is it Alabama State?
Yep. Alabama State tomorrow.
Playing St. Francis.
Yep.
Okay. I'm excited about the tournament, so I'm gonna tune that in. That's probably one of the reasons why I want to go on tonight, because tomorrow I'm gonna lock in on this tournament,
Yeah, we live.
and that includes the playing game, because I'm excited about basketball, feeling really good about my guys, and I'm just really feeling good about the game of basketball right now, because college basketball, this is the coach's game. This is the coach's game. This is the coach's game. We're gonna get we know the player. We need to know more about the players. That's the downside to this. But this is typically the coach's game. And tonight I want to talk a little bit more about coaches. We may run into some names on some players that I've gotten jotted down, but this is definitely the coach's game. At this point in time, because there's not a lot of superstar players across conferences that we can name anymore. I mean, we getting to know these guys year after year, and they come and they go. The transfer portal don't make it any better, because we don't, one year they're here, next year they're there. But so this is definitely the coach's game, much
That's
different from the NBA. The
yeah.
NBA is a players' league. This is really the coach's game right now.
That's
So
why nobody pick against Izzo in Michigan State, because it's a
yeah,
coach. 20
yeah,
by the way. I
yeah.
think straight appearances.
Yeah, we're gonna get to him too, because I got him jotted down. But North Carolina get a chance to play in that first four. San Diego State tomorrow night. Everybody gonna be watching that. I know I'm definitely gonna be watching that. They're gonna kick off the tournament. And then, since we talk about coaches and expectations of the tournament, and their impact on their teams, one other coach I want to talk about is Mark Pope. I think it's Mark Pope at Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah, I think he got the job. He took the job at his alma mater. He was on the '96 team, the '96 national championship team.
Yep.
With Tony Delk and who else was on that team? Tony Delk was
Was
on that squad. Antoine
Ron Mercer,
Walker.
I think.
Yeah, I think Antoine Walker was on that team. They were on that team, but Mark Pope came for BYU, took over their program, and I really think he did better than expected. They battled a few injuries in the middle portion of the season, and the SEC turned out to be a gauntlet of a
Yeah,
conference.
yeah.
I mean, the SEC. I think we talked about them last week. It's the best conference in basketball, in college basketball, and I mean,
I think they
when you
got
talked about the SEC back in the day, it was always Kentucky first.
yeah.
It was always Kentucky first, then maybe LSU, and then everybody else kind of, was behind them, but it was always Kentucky first. But this year, it's just a straight up gauntlet. They got 14 teams in the tournament.
Yep.
14 teams from the SEC in the field of 68. Okay, so that's something we're going to have to take a look at and keep an eye on how the SEC teams play in this tournament. Going forward, I'm excited about that. Since we talk about the SEC and we're talking about coaches, John Calipari, I believe he has Arkansas in the tournament. And since I'm on name drop, I'm gonna talk about a player, John L. Davis, Gary, Indiana, 21st century. His boys still in the tournament, but John L's at Arkansas, and many may think that that team underachieved a little bit. Especially when you consider that Coach Calipari took a few players from Kentucky with him
Mm-hmm.
to Arkansas. Now they played inspired basketball when they played Kentucky. If you saw them two matchups,
Yeah, they
they
blew them
played
out.
inspired basketball when they played Kentucky. They came to play when they played against Kentucky, but they are in the tournament. We're gonna take a look at them, see how they pan out. John L. Davis had an experience in the Final Four with was it Florida Atlantic, I think it was.
FAU, yeah.
Yeah. Him and just to bring up another coach's name, Dusty May.
Go Blue.
You know, he played for Dusty May at the University of Florida Atlantic. And Dusty May took the job at Michigan. He got the Wolverines playing well. And
Champions, tournament champions.
Big Ten tournament champions. They beat Wisconsin. You say they got snubbed on the seed, but
yeah,
I think they're about right, man. I think they're a 5 seed. Now they probably put them in a bad spot when you talk about the teams they may have to beat to get out of the what are they in the South?
Yeah, they in the South.
Okay, so yeah, they might be in a bad spot. Who's number one team in the South?
Auburn.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm cool with them being in the South, but I don't think they was a 5 seed. I think they could have teetered on that 4 line. You can throw a toss up. I mean, Texas A&M got the 4 seed in the South, but I mean, we got to reward conference championship somewhere, right? Tournament championship. Texas A&M ain't win the SEC.
Yeah, who won the Big Ten regular season?
Michigan State. It was Michigan State.
Okay.
And then I think Maryland finished second, and then Michigan was third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, now you bring up Maryland. I want to talk about some. I'll get to that. I want to stay on course here with trying to touch on some of these coaches. Tom Izzo got his boys, and you can never count Coach Izzo out. Michigan State, you know, if they get to the Final Four, that's what he do.
Yeah,
that's what he do. At one point, Tom Izzo had so many kids that he recruited for so many years. Each one of them can say, "I made it to at least one Final Four."
Right.
You know, and it seemed like for a long stretch, he was always had a team in the Final Four. Teams that you probably will never expect it to be there. He always has his teams playing very well at the end of the season. And this year is no different. I don't know if you've ever seen Tom Izzo in person, but
he's a little dude.
Little dude, man. Yeah. He a little man with a big voice and a lot of passion, and he get the most out of his basketball teams. For over 25 years now.
Let's see,
because I believe when the team Cleves, maybe a little longer.
Yeah, he won it in 2000.
2000.
So and he took over for what Judd Heath in late 90s.
Yeah. So he's been at it for a long time. Yeah. And he's been having that program at the high level. And we always talk about the Blue Bloods, Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina. At one point, it was Indiana. You know, your top-notch programs in the country. But I think since Izzo coming off the success of Judge Heathcote, the legend of Judge Heathcote, he's carried the torch well. You know what I'm saying? With consistently getting that team to play at a high level, getting that program in the tournament, going out and getting some high recruits from time to time. But he really gets the most out of his team, out of his teams. He's been doing it for a long time. Before we went on, we talked about Calvin Sampson. We got to talk about Houston. Yeah. And I was talking to Coach Jeremiah Ochoa earlier, and he brought Houston up. And I don't even think we really finished the conversation, but when me and you talked about it, all I could think about is I heard it said that this is I think this is the 4th consecutive season when Coach Calvin Sampson has won 30 games at the University of Houston for at least 4 years in a row. And that's really hard to do in this era of college basketball with the transfer portal and just the whole gauntlet of recruiting and the transfer portal, the one and done rule, stuff like that. It's really hard to have a consistent winner every year. But for some reason, they're always a really good defensive and rebounding team. They just struggle to score sometimes.
Right.
And then most recently, that's what's come to haunt them. The struggle to put the ball in the basket. Sometimes they play so hard on the defensive end. They score a lot of points off of their defense. But he's their team we got to look at, in this tournament, because eventually Coach Sampson has to break through in this tournament to
To
put that
get
real stamp on his legacy.
Yeah, I mean, he got to the
Yeah.
Final Four in 2021. They lost to Baylor. In 22, they got to the Elite Eight, and then 23, they got to the Sweet 16. So, like, it's trending the wrong way for him. Considering
Yeah.
his Final Four, Sweet 16, and Elite Eight, Sweet 16. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if I had to pick a team who I think can do it, and we know how this bracketology go. Your bracket could be busted on the first game. It's just so unpredictable. But if I had to pick a number one seed to get to the Final Four, I would put my money on Houston. I'm not too confident in the other number one seeds that we got on the docket. Duke is the number one seed, but I think they'll make it to the second weekend, but I can't see them getting to the Final Four. Auburn, I don't think they're going to get to the Final Four. I think they'll get out the first weekend. I don't think Florida's going to get out the first weekend because, that second round matchup, they're going to run up against the defending champs in UConn if UConn take care of business versus Oklahoma. So it's something to be said about Coach Hurley. Like, you don't just win two of them.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought his name up, because I didn't have his name jotted down, but he's most definitely got to be talked about, being the 2-time repeating NCAA champions, and he has sent some kids to the NBA. But you said a lot. And you hit a lot of points for me, because when we talk about the coaches, we talked about Calvin Sampson, and you brought up Duke. Jon Scheyer. This team and this program has not missed a beat.
I'm surprised.
Really, since Coach Krzyzewski left. He's kept his team and his program at a high level, worthy of Coach K. And I'm kind of surprised you don't have him going to the Final Four, because a lot of people do. You said you would sit Cooper Flag in the first round. A lot of people say they would do the same, that they would sit Cooper Flag in the first round, and whoever they play in that first game, and get him playing in the second round. But you got to assume they're going to get Cooper Flag back, and I expect for them. I'm gonna say they'll be Elite Eight.
Elite, okay.
I'm gonna get Duke to the Elite Eight, and I haven't even looked at the bracket. I haven't looked at any of these brackets outside of tomorrow's game.
Yeah,
tomorrow's games is the first four. I mean, with me being so busy with our stuff, I haven't had a chance to really watch. But I'm gonna take every opportunity I can to enjoy this tournament. Because I was able to watch the Big Ten championship game, the SEC championship games, just to name a few, on Sunday. But we on the grind of our own. But I'm gonna do everything within my power to take this tournament in, because I just think it's just a good time for basketball for me right now. And then I just want to take that and parlay that whole watch the game experience and bring it here to the people. So
yeah.
I'm gonna do everything I can to bring my perspective on this college basketball tournament this season. Who else we got? We talked about Dusty May a little bit. Widow from Florida Atlantic. Got experience taking the team to the Final Four. Now he's got the Wolverines playing well. Now, one guy, Todd Golden, Florida.
Yeah.
They won the SEC championship game. They beat Tennessee. And everyone's saying they have the best guards in the country. They got the best 3 guards in the country.
Yeah.
So for us, not to know a lot of names, you have to really seek out and watch the games to know these guys now because they're not being really promoted to you, or that we're just not watching them. And I'm hoping that this tournament can push us forward for years to come, where we can get back to knowing the players and of course the coaches and the programs. And I'm a big fan of NIL, and I'm hoping that the NIL can keep these guys around so that we can watch them at the college level in America, so that we can watch them become pros. I think we talked about that last week a little bit. But then we talk about college and pro and knowing players. And we're not going to be too much longer, but one thing in particular I want to talk about was, we talked about it earlier, was like we got freshmen, impact freshmen. Every year you get the McDonald's All-Americans, and you get those guys that are projected to be pros. And one thing I wanted to touch on was the impact on winning we talked about. Okay, so Derek Queen, University of Maryland, 6'10", 250 pounds, out of Baltimore, Maryland.
Number
When you
25.
look at his
People that don't know.
number 25, you're right, 6'10", 250 pounds, Baltimore, Maryland. When I seen this kid in McDonald's All-American, that's the guy for me. I like the big guys. I like the big guys that play big. But Derek Queen has a special skill set. Almost like Joker. You can compare him to Joker. Matter of fact, I'm willing to say he has a better handle than Joker.
Don't
Probably
pass
not
up,
as
but yeah.
well. He most definitely. I'm willing to say he got a better handle than Joker. You're right. He may not have the ability to pass and see the floor like Joker, but he's an entertaining, fun, big player to watch. And he can take you around the basket and play big. I mean, I like the kid. I like this kid, Derek Queen. Of course, Cooper Flag is getting all the notoriety all summer from the Olympics. Go all the way starting with the Olympic exposure when he had a chance to go and play against the Olympic team, getting ready for the Olympics last season and last summer, and that kind of kicked off. We already knew him, but that kind of kicked off this big campaign, this big Cooper Flag campaign. But what I want to talk about is impact on winning. So it's obvious with Maryland in the tournament, Derek Queen has an impact on winning at the University of Maryland. Cooper Flag has had an impact on winning at Duke University. And two players in particular, we talk about talent. Very talented kids. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper, the son of Ron Harper. And I spoke to you earlier talking about just the impact of winning. And we talk about the big time freshmen. I think me and you both identify with the Fab Five. Now there's only two of those guys. They're only two, but they went to the same school. They went to Rutgers. Talking about Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. But they're not in the tournament. They're not in the tournament. But does that say that they're not ready to be pros? But you can argue that they didn't have an impact on winning.
Right.
Also, I want to compare them to one. We talk about talented freshman. One, Carmelo Anthony, 2003.
Yeah.
One and done. Took Syracuse Orangemen to the national championship. Coach Jim Boeheim, and I think that was Coach Jim Boeheim's only national championship.
Yeah.
But Carmelo Anthony had an impact on winning. So the thing about it is, You could be talented, but does it impact winning? So it's going to be interesting to see where those guys go. I'm pretty sure they'll go pretty high in the draft, but where they end up, the effect they'll have on the teams that they'll end up with is something to see. But Derek Queen, Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, and Dylan Harper were at least four of the top freshmen in college basketball this season. McDonald's All Americans, and I just wanted to touch on a different perspective of winning, impact on winning, and just being straight up, flat out talented, and just ready to go to the next level, and what type of impact you'll have at the NBA, and also the ability to have a namesake where we could follow these guys into the pros and see their journey when they get to the NBA. Because I think it's fair to say all four of those guys will be NBA players.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, Derek, his game and his stock is really going up right now. I mean, he was the freshman player of the year for the Big Ten Conference. I know you said you liked him because he plays big. He's a big man that play big.
Yeah.
But he's shifty enough where if he got the ball outside, the 3-point lane, he can get by you and then, evade a defender, hit him with a Euro step and finish,
Yeah.
and he got a touch from the free throw line so he can knock down the free throw. So I like this game. I know he's the other big down at Maryland is Angel Reese brother. That both of them left-handed. That's crazy. They're both, Angel and him is both left-handed. But there's a lot of lefties out here. If you watch the game in college basketball, it's a lot of lefties, way more than when I was coming up. I don't know what happened or what's in the water, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
But
see, speaking of lefties,
yeah,
I want to bring up Cutter Pac-Man.
Should have been a lefty.
Yeah, and your dad tell a story of how he forced him to use his right hand.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I never heard of anybody doing that. But hey, he he getting it done using that right hand.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I haven't seen. You've been watching probably a little bit more college basketball than me to even point that out. There's more lefties than usual. You have to have a real good scouting report to be able to tell me that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna lean on you a little bit with this March Madness thing. Let me bring some light on a gentleman in particular that's watching, and I hope he's still watching. I want to bring some attention to him. Mark Carruthers. That name for me, I have to say his name, but the superstar is his daughter Jessica Carruthers.
Okay.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I believe across all women's college basketball, I heard that she's the leading scorer in the country across all levels of women's college basketball. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I think I heard that. But she's Crown Point Bulldog. Them boys, I mentioned earlier, they won their regional. They on their way to semi-state. But she won a state championship in Indiana for the girls. I forget what year, but since Mark is taking his time out to check us out, I want to shout him out. Shout out Jessica. And she's at Indiana Northwest playing ball at IU Northwest in Gary, Indiana. So since Mark taking out the time to watch the game with us and watch us, check us out, I saw him checking us out last week. But today, since I saw you tonight, Mark, I want to make sure that I made mention of Jessica. And I know that makes you proud. And as a matter of fact, his son won a state championship as well at Andran in I think a year or two before his sister did. So imagine that. You got your son won a state championship and your daughter won a state championship in basketball. And he every bit of a coach and trainer because he works with kids on their fundamentals of basketball. So Mark, big shout out to you, man. Thanks for checking us out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everybody else that tuned in, we appreciate you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share the channel. We are trying to grow this thing. I promise you, I know we say this quite often. We got some things lined up that we are trying to get off the ground. We're gonna get that off the ground. I know our peak season is football because we both we both
Yeah.
love that gridiron. We both love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
gridiron. Yeah,
Big fans, sports fans, but football
it's king.
it does it, man. It can't. I mean, I love basketball. It's the game I played as a youngster and fell in love with. But the older I got, football is king now, and I
Yeah.
think it's that way around this country. It's the one game that shuts down the whole country for one day, and
Well,
and I
longer than
think
that.
that pretty much we're gonna get a 3-day weekend out of it soon. I believe.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. So yeah,
but
y'all go ahead.
March Madness, March Madness, 'tis the season to be marching. Thanks for watching the game. Things tip off tomorrow. Tomorrow with the first four, we be watching Jalen Washington and the North Carolina Tar Heels to see if they can get the job done against San Diego State. I brought up Texas. Texas is in the first four as well, and I want to send a shout out to my man Jason Kent.
Yeah.
And I believe Jason Kent Jr. He played for the University of Texas, and that's a buddy of mine. He also trains and develops kids. The coaching fraternity is doing well. Mark Carruthers, Jason Kent. Hey, some local action tomorrow on Tuesday and Wednesday with Texas. You say they're playing Xavier.
Yeah.
And North Carolina and Jalen Washington playing San Diego State. And we will be watching the game. Thanks for watching the game with us. Watch the Game Sports. Special shout out to East Chicago boys basketball, the Crown Point Bulldogs, and the Gary 21st Century Cougars. Let's go win some championships. Thanks for watching the game.
We out of here.